welcome back to the Nintendo 64 Diaries, a limited series that we're doing here on Call Me By Your Game throughout the year 2026 to celebrate the 30th birthday of everyone's favorite 64-bit console, the Nintendo 64. I'm your host of this series, Connor McCabe, and today we have another topic episode where we are going to be discussing Dirtbag N64 games. You might be thinking to yourself, what the hell does that mean? I have an answer for you, and that answer is going to come a little later. A little bit of housekeeping before we really get this thing revved up, before we crack open those nasty beers, before we do just the worst stuff imaginable. If you'd like to support the show, you can do that a few ways. You can rate and review us in the Apple Podcast Store. You can share the podcast with a friend, or consider checking us out on Patreon over at patreon.com/supernpcradio, where there are a bunch of bonus podcasts that I do over there, including our Games Club series that we do every single quarter. We're currently covering Mina the Hollower. By the time this episode comes out too, it's a couple of days before our next Games Club election for September Madness. So if you want to vote on the game that we cover in September, one of the brand new releases, sign up at our $2 Mailroom Toad tier and vote. Or do the $5 tier. I don't really care. There's links to the show notes for not only the Patreon, but any plugs that me and my guest might have today and the social medias for the podcast. So, yeah, if you're listening to this or later, remember, I want to follow one of those links. Where did I do that? Go to the episode description, and you'll find it there. I am going to introduce our two guests for today. It's a group of three. It's been a minute since I've done this on the series. I think we only did it one other time. First, for what is now his third entry, second in a row, and he's coming back for at least a fourth in a couple months. Jeremy Schmidt returns. Hey, pal.
Woo! I'm back, baby. I'm back, and I don't have time to play with myself.
Oh. That might be a little preview of something to come.
Hearn's nodding.
Yes.
Hearn knows it.
I know it.
I'm back, and I don't have time to play with myself.
Very good, Jeremy. Normally, I would be horrified at you saying anything like that, but I have an idea of what it's connected to.
It's all in good fun. All in good fun.
Good. Jeremy is here. And then a special little someone who, up until this episode, was a very good boy. But today, like me and Jeremy, he's going to be a little naughty, penning his first entry in the N64 diary. Michael Hearn is here. Welcome, Michael.
I hear this is where the bad boys hang out. Am I right?
It is.
Yeah.
And you might be the baddest one of all.
I hope so. I mean, I don't care. Yeah. Yeah, that's a real bad boy thing to say.
Well, Hearn,
Yes.
it's wonderful to have you
Yes, thank you.
penning an entry in the N64 diary. I want to talk to you a little bit up top, a little extra. We've already heard from Jeremy on his stinking history with the console. I don't give a shit about that anymore. What I do want to hear about is your history with the console. Hearn,
Yes.
tell me about that in a few minutes. Let me know, did you play it back in the day? Do you still play it? Give us a rundown.
Yes. Near and dear to my heart always, the Nintendo 64.
Oh, good.
But yeah, I do think in my history for like video gaming in general, I remember growing up with the Nintendo, Super Nintendo, and I think the Nintendo 64 was like the first system I was aware of on the purview of coming out and having like a rollout and wanting to get it. And sure enough, it was one of the first I ever got with some of my own money. Like I saved up and got it. Got it with the launch title, of course, Super Mario 64. I remember playing demos of that at like probably Best Buy, Toys R Us style things, maybe GameStop, who knows. Maybe even Funko Land, that's how far back I'm going.
Funko Land.
Yeah, the real bad boy, the real dirtbag store of all time. I remember talking about Virtual Boy games at a Funko Land. That's how dirtbag
I
it
think
was.
they were shooing you out at that point.
Well, yeah, at that point. But that also might have been because they were shutting down for good, you know.
Yes.
But yeah, I just remember all the rollouts of like everything about it, about the 3D elements, especially it being tied to Mario 64. being really taken away. It really felt like the future. All those polluted old graphics. You're like, how could it possibly get better than that? And it still hasn't. And yeah, the rollout of it really excited me. I remember being really into it. And sure enough, like Super Mario 64 didn't let down. Still an all-timer. I've replayed every now and then, and it still doesn't get old. I think just the sharp design of it and the smartness of it always. And then obviously the system had multiple controllers, and around that time I had a good amount of like dirtbag friends my age, and we would all play Mario Kart or GoldenEye or Perfect Dark with multiple controllers, even some other more risque games of the type of battling each other in a combat that's mortal and other stuff like that. But yeah, I think it was just like the earliest of, because I mean, there were 2-player games on Super Nintendo for sure. I would play with friends or I would share some things, but like it didn't feel as communal as like much as this era of 4 controllers on one screen, split screen to get. And I think that was a big revolution for like console gaming, and at least especially in my purview. There were some fun crossovers too. I was always a PC gamer, and I think around like there were always like ports here and there on like Super Nintendo, sometimes older. But I think this era is when it sort of started to match up with what PCs were doing, and it, you know, I wouldn't say surpass. Like I think it was still on par, and it still like maybe had limits that the PC games or PC versions of some games even did. But just the fact that you could actually share it like on a split screen with friends instead of like, I wasn't like a big online PC gamer. So again, like having friends in the same room and playing games with them was a big revelation for the gaming. Made it more social, made it more intense and fun, like in a competitive nature. You could event tournaments, what have you. But yeah, there was a lot of excitement about that going on with the Nintendo 64, and I think it was easy to share games. It was easy to have cartridges that were sturdy and not as risky to give to your friends as much as like a disc or something. Yeah, like every memory I have of like the Nintendo 64 is kind of the start of gaming, not for real, because there were plenty of games Super Nintendo era that are like classics, but like this felt like more than I knew about it, more than me and my sister could play it. It was a communal thing with friends, and I think I owe that a lot to like this era of gaming and the Nintendo 64.
You know, hearing you recount a few memories about the communal aspect of this system is one of the reasons why I think it had such long legs for at least our generation, like going into college and whatnot. This was a console that I feel like I've heard anecdotally from other friends that they had at least one friend on their college campus who had it and had a way to play like Smash Brothers, Car, GoldenEye, or even more obscure multiplayer titles. I was that person in my dorm, and we were the first room on the hall, so it was like perfect to sort of be sort of like a host of group gaming in a sense, but it was also something we did growing up. But Hearn, I love hearing that. Do you before I want to highlight something and ask you a question.
Sure.
I do want to make note that back in the first ever, well, I'll just say the maiden voyage of the Space Solace mission, it was the 3 of us and one Ari Grab.
Yeah, I recall this. Shout out Ari.
I've gotta believe.
I gotta believe.
We
conducted the first ever fantasy draft in space after getting hit by an asteroid, and the console that we covered was the N64. Hearn.
Wow.
You brought up, there were a few games you brought up, some more obscure titles in that episode that I was aware of, but there were some that I didn't realize how great they were until I heard from you, like Beetle Adventure Racing.
Yes, that's a fun one.
Nice.
And so you just like shared some good knowledge with me on that episode, and it has not gone forgotten.
Oh, well, thank you. Glad to hear of it. That reminds me too, and I'm pretty sure one of my choices was, this was also the first ever like imported game I ever bought, was Sin and Punishment.
Yes.
Yeah.
Which I don't think can fit in our category because it didn't get any SRB rating because it never got released in America proper until the Wii, and when it did, it was T rated.
Yeah.
But yeah, I remember hearing the hype about it. I had familiarity with Treasure games from some degree with like Genesis and stuff. I had done Star Heroes by then, so in some PlayStation games maybe. So I'm like, I'm aware these guys are weirdos. I hear the Sin and Punishment game is awesome. I was able to find it on eBay with like a converter that you can plug it into, and it just plugs into the Nintendo
Oh, wow.
64 hardware and plays. So that was the very first imported game I ever like forked over money to buy, get shipped to me, and play. And it's a pretty
Cool.
accessible one too, even for the Nintendo 64. Like the Wii version has like translations and everything,
I see.
but the game itself is still voice acted in English, so you understand
Okay.
the story. It wasn't hard at the time to find like a translated guide for the main menu, and even if you didn't have that, you could probably mess around with it and figure it out in due time. But most of the game is pretty accessible, straightforward shmup, shooting and upping and running around.
Yep.
But yeah, that's a classic that I always have dear and dear to my heart, just not only for the like novelty of that piece of history in my heart, but also like it's still like I still say it's a very great game, one of the Nintendo 64's best.
Yes. Yeah, that one I also, like you mentioned, it coming to the Wii Virtual Console. That's when I first became aware of it. But Hearn, I want to give you some thanks for sharing a little bit about your history.
You're welcome.
With the console. We're going to be hearing from you a lot more today as we get into some of our picks for these Dirtbag games.
Yeah.
Jeremy, this may be an unnecessary check-in because I just did this with you last episode.
Yeah.
But have you been any N64 findings that you need to report or experiments, or do you want to just save that for the main event?
Well, I mean, I can tell you that I did like an absurd amount of research for this episode. Like, I do no research for anything, but I did, for whatever reason, I put like a week into this
Nice.
episode. So I have on my notes app a pretty like comprehensive list of games that I've tried that I'd be down to talk about if we can get to them.
Sweet.
But yeah, no, I just I guess I can kind of just, what led me to think about this episode or like to pitch you this episode.
Go right ahead.
Okay.
I have a surprise for the listener that you guys are aware of, but I can save that for how I played some of these games for later.
Oh, great.
So, Jeremy, why don't
Yeah.
you tee up like where the genesis for Dirtbag N64 games came from?
Yeah, the Neon Genesis, perhaps.
Ooh.
Yeah, no, so growing up, Nintendo was obviously like has always kind of positioned themselves as the more family oriented console of choice. Like that definition really came through in the Genesis Super Nintendo era. Like it was very like Mortal Kombat on Genesis has blood, Super Nintendo does not. And that's sort of like you can feel Nintendo has always sort of branded and shaped themselves that way throughout history ever since then. And but there are these like moments in history where like culture wants to be really edgy, especially in the gaming world, like where edgy video games was like the thing that like every little 11 to 17-year-old boy like wanted, like an adult themed game. And this is also the era of Final Fantasy VII, which is like a very adult theme game, and Metal Gear Solid as well. Very adult themes and like adult presentation and more cinematic. So the N64 had all these random attempts at like adult kind of games, and these were games that I would oftentimes try to rent from Blockbuster, and it would always be a coin toss on whether or not my mom would let me rent them. So I kind of built like an obsession specifically around like what I now call lovingly Dirtbag N64 titles, which are basically like games where I would just throw it into my mom's shopping bag or whatever, and then she would take it up to the counter, and sometimes she would check the rating and sometimes she wouldn't. And that was the coin toss. So
Ooh.
Sometimes she was just too busy and would just get it, and I'd be like, yes! And then sometimes she would read it and go like, Jeremy. Like, I remember specifically being in Blockbuster and, like, Conker's Bad Fur Day was, like, not...
Well, that's not...
I was like, come on, please, come on. So, yeah, anyways, I just think it's always really weird. Like, we could do an episode about the GameCube's attempt at, like, adult style games, or the Wii's. The Wii has a really bizarre move where they put out Mad World at one point just to try to appeal to, like, edgier gamers and stuff. Like, there's Nintendo's history is very fraught in this area. But yeah, anyways, that's sort of like what what spring-loaded this, because you wouldn't be able to do this with the PlayStation. It's just like every game is like rated M.
Yeah, I think a few things lend itself to this being even the perfect Nintendo console to do it on, which is the era that you were referring to, of this sort of like fever that people had for anything adult, especially as video games were like, you know, it was, I don't know, this is like the 5th or so generation of video game consoles, the 3rd for Nintendo, and there was just such a like lust for naughty games or adult games, and that was interpreted different ways by people. But also, I think one of the biggest reasons why this topic kind of only works on the N64 is that there were only like 300 games made for this thing. So you could do research, and even though that is still a mountain of titles to sift through and try, it's way more feasible than, I don't know, however many thousands of discs were released on PlayStation.
Yeah. I definitely didn't 100%. I definitely did not play every M-rated game. I'll say that for this episode. I played the ones that I just thought were the loudest.
Awesome. Well, getting into this a little bit more too, you sort of have led me to want to transition to things we considered or how we even interpreted Dirtbag N64 games and what that means to us, because I think we all might have like a slightly different interpretation of that.
Yeah. The thing I said to you guys was
the instructions you gave.
Well, it was like M-rated, and then preferably no rare titles, skipping the rare ones, but also who cares?
Yes. So for you, Jeremy, as you were doing this, that's basically kind of the rubric you followed as you were putting things on the list and doing research.
Sort of, and I found myself, I actually did, right as we were talking just now, looked up a handful of titles just to be sure they were rated M and not T for teen, because I in some cases I actually didn't look up the rating first. I just was kind of like, I'm gonna look at this game just because I remember it, and I remember it being a little bit not a kid's mascot platformer or something. So, I think all of mine on my list are rated M. If a T for teen game sneaks in there, well, oh well.
Yeah, I'd be curious looking at my list, because I think a lot of them will fall under the M for mature category, like that explicit rating. But there are a couple on here that I was like, these are dirtbag games, whether or not they are. So I'm excited to present a few of those to you guys today.
Cool.
Hearn, did you take Jeremy's
rubric
or how'd you sort of curate your
I did,
ideas?
and it's a similar thing of like, it almost feels redundant to say Tanner's Bad Fur Day in the episode, because that is the infamous one. That is almost like the conversation almost beyond Dirtbag. It is legitimately transgressive. It's not just like, trying to be edgy. It's something that was like a big prank almost. I do have a couple T's that just are in the periphery of like, they'd be interesting to talk about if we run out. Cool. And I just mentioned Sin and Punishment technically could fall under the like never got rated if we want to play that game for Nintendo 64.
It's unrated.
Unrated, baby. like those DVDs back in the day when they just had one extra cutscene or something. But no, that technically got T. But there are a couple like T-rated games that I would consider kind of dirtbag adjacent, just from like what their content is, what they're trying to do. They're still trying to play the same game of like, this isn't your baby's like N64 game, but in reality it's still kind of tame. Or at least tamer than what things it's trying to do is. But I do have like a good series of the M-rated games worth talking about for the Nintendo 64. I also recognize a lot of them, especially as a PC gamer, are very, if not ports, at least adjacent to PC properties. And I think that was also like an interesting correlation, because there are PC ports on PlayStation, even Saturn. But I think sometimes there's something about like porting it to the Nintendo 64 that only seemed like they kind of preferred to do it. I don't know if it's technology.
Yes, I think
or some degree of like what they could do on that. And also like some of them are first person shooters. And I always have this wrinkle that like the Z trader of the Nintendo 64 lent itself to that more.
and the analog stick.
Yeah, and the analog stick, because also like they were still figuring out DualShock at times. Like there are some PlayStation first-person shooters that don't have that analog control scheme figured out yet. So there's some of that too, and I just recognize that like there's like a weird like you can see the transition of like almost video console gaming in general embracing the ability to be mature in some of their transitions. But yeah, I do have I think a good amount of titles that I'm sure will cross over. And then I have me and Jeremy I think share a passion pick at the end.
Yeah.
That is worth saving.
I don't know if that's possible. I would love for that to be like the entree game for the episode, but we'll see what happens.
Yes.
Hearing you, Hearn, talk about the PC port of it all, I think you guys are both right that the stick definitely lends itself because, out of the box, the N64 had that. PlayStation would eventually have like the DualShock, but they originally didn't. I also, one thing I learned on last month's episode, Jeremy and I were discussing cross-platform games that were on the N64 and any other console. Yep. And one of the things that came up was like the difference between the hardware of the PlayStation 1 and N64. And without getting into the weeds too much, the N64 did have more RAM than the PlayStation 1, which made loading times a lot quicker. It definitely suffered in some areas, but that could have had something to do with why like a lot of the first person shooters in general were ported here. So for my little rubric, I definitely took from the creed of Mr. Schmidt over here in a big way, but I also I have something to share too as we get in. This was my big surprise for the episode. Between basically within the last few weeks, purchased myself a little piece of hardware to run software from the Nintendo 64, and I've had my eyes on what do you call them? Why can't I think of the name of the original cart that people would load a bunch of stuff on the N64?
EverDrive?
Yes. I have had my eyes on EverDrives forever. I've never gotten one. I did buy a Summer Cart 64. Beautiful and wonderful, and I chose a little pink color.
It's like strawberry.
That's right.
It's a little strawberry
pink. Delicious.
And I had a friend helped me make it so that I could basically just access any N64 game on here and try it out. Of course, not that I really care, but many of which I own. I guess if you talk percentages, not really. But this thing was incredibly helpful in me doing research for this episode because there was so much, without just, Googling M-rated N64 games, I basically was going down the list of games in the U.S. for the N64, and if I didn't know what it was, I was trying it out.
Cool.
Right.
And again, this limited library of 300 or less was incredibly helpful for that. But I just want to shout this thing out. It's an incredible product. I got it for...
And it's cheap, too.
Yeah, it's 100 bones, I think.
Yeah. Well, I mean, compared to the EverDrives, which are... I think when I got my EverDrive... You can
get those in Mina like that, 100 bones.
Mine was 300 or 200 or something crazy for that.
Wow.
And yeah, then when I got my analog 3D, because of weird technological things, it didn't work. So the Summer Cart did, though. So I ended up having I replaced it with a Summer Cart.
And the Summer Cart I love because it also works with original N64 hardware. It's kind of mind-blowing to plug this thing in, turn it on, and being able to go to a file browser on the system. But...
Oh, wow, it's like your first little time with all that stuff. That's cool, man.
It's, I have joked for a
little
long
Connor's
time.
grown up.
Yeah, finally. I've made jokes before, often on the podcast, about how I'm roughly 10 years late to everything, whether it be pop culture, consoles, you name it. So here I am enjoying the Summer Cart. But because of this, and just going through the list and trying out games, especially with provocative names in them, I sort of... I found a bunch of stuff I had never heard of, which was exciting, and I sort of formed... I might have a little more of an abstract perspective on Dirtbag games today.
Wow.
A lot of these will be rated M, but I sort of was looking at this through the lens of games that I think dirtbags back then would have been drawn to.
Yeah.
And there's going to be crossover with the other stuff that you guys are bringing today, probably a ton of it. But I also just tried to look at that, be like, what could they be drawn to? And I think as we go through some games, you're going to see what I mean by that.
Yeah, as long as they kind of circle the toilet bowl of the N64, I think you're good.
And there were also things that I tried out that I'm like, it was almost so like bland or not even uninteresting, but bland and not provocative that it didn't feel right to include here.
I'm sure we'll get into it, when we talk about our experiences with some of these games, but like, just don't forget when you're talking about a game, like I would love to hear, if you don't mention it, like, is this a game that you would ever go back to? You know what I mean? Like,
there are a few of those.
Yes, for me too.
Ooh.
One notable one that I was really surprised by. But.
Ooh, exciting. Ooh. I think that's enough setting the table. I want to do a couple things. I've got like a couple categories that I want to go through, but we don't have to do it all at once. Jeremy, again, thank you for this wonderful idea for this episode. I want to tee you up though.
All blame on Jeremy.
What is a great, or it doesn't have
starting
to be great,
point.
but what's a place you want to start off with this?
I was gonna, if you were gonna try to start this, I was gonna like, wait, I have an idea.
Ooh, perfect.
How about we just start with the first M-rated game that ever was put on the Nintendo 64.
This is interesting. I don't know what it is.
Fellas, we have to reckon with Turok the Dinosaur.
Ooh, okay. There we go.
We have
that
to
makes
reckon.
sense for the first. That seems really reckoning.
It's an early Nintendo
too
64
much acclaim.
Yeah. Yeah. Too much iguana.
Is it too much TOO or too much acclaim?
Too much acclaim. Turok the Dinosaur Hunter. I remember when this came out. I remember it having that M rating. I also believe, I could be wrong, but I also believe this is like an early M-rated game, period, in that the ESRB wasn't always around. Hearn and Connor, do you guys remember times before there were official...
This is like pre-Lieberman stamp on society? Is that what it was?
I don't know when game ratings first showed up, but they're like not on the NES, right?
No, I don't think.
I think they probably show up in the Super Nintendo, but I think it's like later on maybe. And back then we had like a whole other rating, KA, which was like kids to adults, instead of E for everyone. But anyways, Turok the Dinosaur Hunter. Have either of you guys played Turok the Dinosaur Hunter?
Yes.
I own a copy of Turok 2. I don't know how. I'm pretty sure this is a game I got secondhand in like late middle school or high school, but I have a copy of Turok 2, and I've, to much failure, played a good amount of it.
Oh, dude. So, starting with Turok 1, because I actually want to talk about Turok 2 just a little bit more, because that's the actual one that I have the most experience with. To Hearn, what about you? Did you...
I never owned the first one. I think I rented it at one point. I bought the second one, and I remember it getting like famously good reviews. I remember like GameStop gave it above a 9, and I remember that being like a big deal. Like, oh, is this as good as it's going to get for FPSs on Nintendo 64? Not quite, but it's like it's such a weird novelty of a console FPS. Like the whole series is really. But I owned that. I also owned Turok Rage Wars, which I don't know if we'll get into, but I can speak on that if other people don't know that one as well. But and nowadays I have like HD remake ports of all of them except Rage Wars, which I don't think got one. But yeah, I'm familiar with the art of this series at least a little bit.
Yeah, Turok just had this very arresting cover art of just like a guy fighting a velociraptor, like hand-to-hand combat, basically. And he has these cool, like almost like Wolverine blades that come off of his fist. And that was enough for me. I was like, and it's like Jurassic Park was not that old when this came out, And so there was just like we had dinosaur fever in this decade, famously in the 90s, and Turok really took advantage of that. And the problem with Turok is, because the limitations of the N64, it is like covered in dense fog to the point of making exploration kind of a chore. I don't believe there are really good maps in the game, so you get lost frequently. And what's bad about that is like the game is sort of like, it's almost like it's like open world-ish, where there's not really like levels. You're like traveling between portals into different levels to. It's almost more like a Metroidvania where you're like collecting keys to open up doors in different sections of the map, and you keep having to go back to a hub portal to like. Anyways, all that to say, I who knows how much progress I made on Turok the Dinosaur Hunter. I did play an absurd amount of Turok 2 for this show.
Hell yeah!
And is that game designed the same way, where it's like not really levels? Are you just in that? Because I spent like 5 hours on what I would think is stage 1. It's like the longest opening stage I've ever played in a video game.
Yeah.
Ever. It just kept going on, and I never beat it.
Yeah.
Unbelievable.
There's like 5 save points and like little checkpoints throughout, and like I would like, save or whatever, and then like keep going, and then like it just kept like not ending on me. But the design and look of Turok 2 is incredible. It's I mean, for the N64, it obviously like has a lot of like slowdown, like frame, like it has a lot of frame issues on it. Luckily I'm able to like overdrive it on my analog 3D to like get a steadier 30 FPS or whatever. But it's a pretty like intensely designed game. I would say maybe even overly designed, but really fun. And the controls of some of these first-person shooters too are just like way insane. Where I think the way that I was controlling it was like using this C buttons to go forward, backwards, and side to side, and then using the analog with my left hand to control the camera.
Yes.
So, anyways, that's I would say that's a Turok in general is just a great place to start.
No, 100%. It's cool because as a PC gamer who played like a lot of different FPSs before consoles, like kind of got the idea of what an FPS could be. There's so much different language, especially in the Nintendo 64 era of FPSs, that are what like PC established. Turok is especially a weird one where it's like you said, not only Metroidvania and loopy and weird in like a almost Super Nintendo design way, but it's like got collectibles that other PC games don't have. Like there are keys, like you said, you're not just solving the end to one level. It's like a key that you'll carry with you to go back to a hub and stuff like that. Like all the limitations they are in fact there. The first Turok I don't think had a multiplayer, but the second one did.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, and I think that was like a big deal too of just like more getting you in the realm of like having fun with your friends with a game for that. And then Rage Wars is almost the Unreal Tournament of this whole thing, where
nice.
It was just the multiplayer modes and invented modes for the game. The single player you could play I think you'll just unlock more stuff if you do so, but it would be like just Unreal Tournament style, playing against bots, the multiplayer modes in different categories, different like limitations, different setups, different levels. And I remember having fun with that, but I also am like, I wonder how much like it would matter to like how translated it would be nowadays. But yeah, just like you said, the main cool thing about Turok is still, even for like PC gaming, a dinosaur fighting video game with blood and all this stuff is just so novel, and it committed to the bit.
And on the dirtbag note of it, just to make sure we cover that base, there is a crazy animation where if you, at least in the first game, I don't think it's exclusive to your bow and arrow, which is like the first weapon you start out with, but if you shoot a guy in the neck, he then starts to lose blood, like starts to shoot out of his neck, and he holds his neck and goes like and then like falls down. And I think I have some amount of trauma connected to this animation. Like I think there's something like about this animation that when I still see it to this day, I'm like deeply bothered by
it. Too visceral, even then.
Yeah, like why did they go all out for that one animation?
The Last of Us of its time. Like you're just like, you killed this guy with an arrow in his neck. What is wrong with you?
You monster!
Yes. You're gonna grow up to be a bad person.
Yeah. Like a lot. If you zoom in, a locket of his children is on his neck.
Yes. This game, I mean, there's so many elements of it that I think make a Dirtbag game. Something that I remember from, I believe both of them, is just the arsenal that you can get as the player. This is something that I don't think GoldenEye or Perfect Dark really have. I mean, Perfect Dark might get there a little more with its varied weapons, but this almost felt like having like weapons from Halo in a sense, whether it be like shooting a rocket off of you. Even like there's that one weapon in Half-Life Hearn where when you have like a specific type of machine gun, it has a secondary weapon that has it's like a bouncing explosive.
Yeah.
There's something like that in there's something like that in these two. So I
especially
feel like
two, I think they really upped the game with like mixing in like secondary things you can do. Yeah.
Yes. The whole guns and just crazy arsenal and artillery nature of these games, I feel like is another element of the Dirtbag of it all. But yeah, Turok. Yeah. These games are so interesting. I am very surprised that they are still living. Like Hearn was talking about the HD remasters. I remember when those were coming out a couple years ago. Yeah. I was like, look, I have a fond memory of playing this game for like an hour and a half a few times, but is anyone clamoring for this?
Not clamoring, but I did buy them on sales.
Of course.
And I did actually play a little bit of Turok 1 once, and I remember like having that same thought, Connor, while I was playing it though. While it was already too late and I owned it, I was like, I didn't need this. I didn't need this one bit to be on my Switch. If
anything, it not having fog and maybe being easier to get through kind of reveals itself a little too much. You're like, this might be lesser than it was at the time or something. But no, I still haven't beaten any of the remasters or any of the core games, so who knows? But it's still novel. And these were exclusive, by the way. There was never a Turok port for PlayStation.
Right.
This was Nintendo 64 only. I think it wasn't until like a free 64 attempt at a series that maybe it did some cross-platform stuff, but
it might have been on the original Xbox or something. At some point they moved
that's true too. Xbox and PS3, and I don't, and I think maybe GameCube, but it's still like this.
Maybe you're right. Yeah.
But it's still that thing of like, for a second, Turok was Nintendo 64's own dirtbag little mascot. Like, no one could claim him.
It's a real crazy one because I like later on this series just does not have a footing at all. Like its whole thing was dinosaurs, but then they move away from dinosaurs even in the first game so fast. Like you're not actually hunting like that's kind of the game I think a lot of us wanted was like I want to fight different kinds of dinosaurs and there to be a T-Rex boss and stuff, but it's mostly guys. And then some like aliens.
Yeah, especially. I remember that.
Oh, really? This is one of those games where, Jeremy, you're talking about like naming games that you would want to come back and actually play. I don't know. I feel like every time I play a little bit of Turok, I have some fun with it, but I don't actually have a desire to go back to it in the immediate. It's only like when going through my N64 library a few years down the road that I'm like, wait a second, is that better than I remember? And it kind of isn't, but it's not bad either. It's like, it's pretty engaging, I think.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I think here's my complicated answer is no, I probably wouldn't revisit the ones I played, but I wouldn't mind giving 3 a shot because I've never played that. So I don't know if I think that's a good thing. That's saying something positive about the franchise is that I'm not allergic to it.
Totally.
Like I would play another game in the franchise. And I do think the leap between 2 and 1 is vast. So if they leap like that again for 3, then Ed Hearn's shaking his head.
Sorry.
Yeah.
I think we got our answer. Jeremy, what a great way to start off this discussion. Thank you so much, buddy. Hearn, I want to give you a chance. What's a game here that you would love to prop up as an N64 Dirtbag title?
I mean, I'm pretty much giving it away that I've been talking about PC gaming this whole time, and what the transition that I would have about FPSs to the consoles genre and what I would want for. I'm just going to say it, Doom 64, which Doom has been ported already by now. It's even been ported on the Super Nintendo, not very well. There are ports of Doom. Doom, famously, most ported game probably of all time. It didn't really get a port on the 64 because Doom 64 is not a port. It is an original game by Midway. And it's very much a spiritual successor to the Doom 1 and 2. It's still doing the same language of Doom 1 and 2. I don't think it had too much crossover of like level designers or people from the original, but I think it's just like if you know the formula to what makes it a Doom game, you can make it a Doom game. Obviously, I bring up my love of WADs whenever I can. I love to play a good Doom WAD. Now and then. I actually recently they made a new Quake episode pack. They don't call them WADs for Quake. But if you own Quake for like Steam or Switch, their newer version, they just released a new one, Machine Games. And I've been playing that and it's very fun.
Whoa.
But Doom 64, complete original game, has like its own weapons, has its own sort of graphical design that's still like in tune with what Doom 1 and 2 were doing with like half space stations, half like mostly space stations for Doom 64, but there's a little bit of like hell effects and stuff. They have their own takes on some of the more famous enemies. Like they look a little off and a little new and a little vibrant in like a 64 like trying to do way. They're still kind of doing the Doom 1 and 2 engine elements of like the characters are kind of 2D, but you're in a 3D game. It's such an uncanny valley, and but it's so, for starters, good. It's actually a good FPS, like solid campaign, can play through. Night Dive has since made a HD remake of it that has like a couple bonus levels and plays a little better and stuff like that, and that stands the test of time. This game does, but it's also just like, it's such a weird novelty, and I can only imagine like it's such a weird, like it's sold decently. Like someone on social media posted like a list of all the like how the game's ranking sold on the Nintendo 64. Doom 64, I'm grateful to say, cracked the top 100, which would not have been my guess. Because what I remember is a lot of confusion at the time. People just assumed like a lot of games with blank 64 to ever previous property, is this just a port?
Right.
And I also remember some hubbub that it didn't have a multiplayer because, again, Nintendo 64, 4 controller spots, you want your games to kind of be able to prop up that you can play with your friends. This just had a single player campaign. And I think that maybe hurt it a little bit. But also, I was never big on Doom multiplayer in general. Like that's as much as I love that game in the series, that's never been one I went to for the multiplayer of. I was always a fan of the single player campaign, so I didn't miss it for this, and I'm sure it would have been fine, like whatever. Like a Turok multiplayer wasn't also the highlight of the FPS multiplayer for a system, but again, it's a Doom, so it's still like as controversial as the series would be. It's even though you're shooting up demons, it's still bloody, it's still violent. It's got the same like. I sing the praises of this whenever I bring up the Doom series because it still feels like a little bit of the odd man out, don't leave behind, like the underdog of the series.
Yeah.
And I think it's got like a good cult reckoning, even though I believe the port still was like 20 years later after the original release, like the recent remake or whatever.
Wow. So
it was still like something you would have had to go back and buy. Obviously, it's limited only to 64 before the port. But yeah, like as far as, again, Dirtbag games go, the obvious thing would be I'm playing Doom when I shouldn't be playing Doom. I'm investing in online communities again. They have a Doom for 64 that turns out to be original. I got to rent it. It took me a while to actually own a copy of it for myself, but I did rent it from like Blockbuster and played through, and I just remember it being like, this is a very solid Doom campaign, and that's as Dirtbaggy as gaming gets, honestly, is Doom.
It's awesome, just I think for the longest time I was also caught up in the misconception that it was just a port of the original Hearn, but seeing that they did make an original campaign, although like even just looking at it, me having significantly less experience with the series, especially the early games, than you do, I love how it seems to retain so much of the spirit, but the like visual style, despite being, like you said, kind of uncanny because it's on the 64. Like there's some more flair that they'll do with like 3D models, but it really is mostly like 2D flat, like items, characters, pickups, your weapon even.
I still think this is the design of this is still the like you don't aim. Is that right, Hearn? Like, is it still the thing where like
I think, yeah.
Correct. So Connor, did you know that, Connor?
Yes.
Like the thing about like if there's a character in the second floor and you just shoot in the direction and it will,
and your bullet goes
the bullet
up.
just goes up. Yeah, because of the way it's designed. I think that's still the case.
I believe
in
so
Doom 64.
too.
Which is maybe why there's no multiplayer, is because
that's true.
There's like some problem there with like.
It probably would have been fiddled to design for sure.
Yeah.
And it's funny because, like, obviously there's vertical aiming and stuff in, like, GoldenEye, but sometimes that can be a little finicky. I'm kind of grateful that it kept the Doom
Yeah.
auto aim element of it. And is there still verticality in the levels? There's still verticality in movement and stuff, but it's like you said, it's more through lined for its limitations. And maybe it also had an underselling point of that, where you have this big game system that's advertising all these political elements, and you're showing a game that still has a sense of 2D graphical style, and maybe that turned off some people.
It's probably a bigger discussion and not so dirtbag related, but just so I have always been no I was just gonna say I've always also been curious about what this system could have been what the games could have looked like at the library had it taken a more of a Saturn approach to it. I'm glad that they pushed the envelope because it took us to new heights with 3D gaming, but it's just an interesting thought experiment.
Yeah, for sure. All three consoles back then did seem to try to target different solutions to gaming problems. And
the polygons of a PlayStation 1 game are very different from the polygons of a Nintendo 64 game, for sure.
Hearn, you're starting with a real high point, I think, for Dirtbag. I mean, it's like Dirtbag in only name, because it's man, this is a great game.
This is Texas Chainsaw Massacre on the Criterion Channel style Dirtbag.
Yeah.
It's there's something artisanal about this Dirtbag.
There is something bespoke and very
I play with my pinkies out.
Because I know we're not going to get to talk in depth about all the games I'm going to want to get to. There's actually a few titles under this same umbrella. Can I just shout them out as honorable mentions here?
There's at least one that we should talk about more. But
great.
Go ahead. I'll speak up when it comes.
Why don't we do that first then, and then at the end we'll shout out the rest that fit under this little canopy, which I would consider let's see. What do you got?
The one. This was actually a suggestion of yours, Hexen.
Ooh.
Okay, great. This is the biggest surprise for me.
Dude,
I did not
I can't
realize.
believe this game exists. Too. I didn't know about it.
Did you play it?
Yes, I played it for 30 minutes today until I died, and because I don't have a memory card, I just had to restart.
That is awesome.
I got closed in by a barrier when one of the several times where the game is okay, so you opened the key to this door, but now the door's shut really fast, so you got to sprint through them, and I got crunched.
Yeah. Oh,
anyway,
dang it.
Take it away, Jer.
Dude, Hexen is designed. Now, Hearn, help me out here. Is it designed by the same people as Doom? Because it's
software for sure.
Yeah, Heretic and
produced by John Romero, but different director and designers, I think.
Yeah, so it's definitely the same engine.
Yes,
it's using the same engine.
It's building off of Doom.
It's building off of Doom. It's just taking Doom and putting it in a dark fantasy setting, which they later kind of revisit with Doom: The Dark Ages. Here, just came out a couple of years ago. Hexen is what if Doom had trees in it and stuff? It's I couldn't believe just the sheer beauty of the game right away, and the beautiful design of the stages. Right away, I was breaking stained glass to get into hidden areas, and it just felt I don't know, it almost gave me Dark Souls vibes because of how limited the story you're getting is, but how implied everything is, and wandering through these ancient areas. I was so shocked at how much I loved Hexen and how much I loved that opening stage in Hexen, and just really wanted to play more. And recently, they actually released a Heretic and Hexen collection that is all redone and not remade, but it is just in widescreen, locked either 60 or 120 FPS. It's lightning fast, and I've been actually playing it on my Xbox because it's on Game Pass. So
nice.
I've been playing through Heretic, which was a prequel to Hexen, and then Hexen has 3 other games associated with it, sequel games basically. So there's so much of this material to sift through if you want to. It's all there for you. I will say though, something about playing on the Xbox, I did miss playing it on the N64 a little bit, and it kind of made me want to go back to that version because something about the 30 FPS actually I liked a little better for that game, because as much as I love to zip around in a Doom style game or a Quake style game, this setting, this atmosphere, kind of almost made me feel a little bit like it needed to be paced a little slower, or I needed to approach areas with a little bit more caution.
You need to feel like you're wearing that mail of armor.
Yes,
that's slowing you down.
Heavy Samus,
and you're not just Doom guy like.
Yeah, right, running, sprinting through. But I never played this growing up. I think the box art made me not really understand what it was gonna be. I thought it would be like a confusing strategy game or something, and it's not that at all. It's just this really tight, well made first person, almost like a Skyrim, like an early like Oblivion or Skyrim or something. Like, anyways, I'm glad everyone here has played it because it's man, it's a really good one.
This is definitely, I think maybe even out of all the games I played for this episode, top of mind is the one I would want to go back to most. I can't tell you how much fun I had playing, because I'd never played like a Doom-like that wasn't just, either futuristic, like Star Wars Dark Forces, or that was more, I guess, just in the style or setting of Doom. With more like heavy kind of. I was talking about the artillery of Turok. So sorry to sound like a broken record, but something like that Doom has as well, which is like machine guns, explosives, bazookas, whatever. This game just like playing with. I played as the mage this afternoon, and you just have a little wand that's sticking. Well, it's really like a staff sticking out in front of you that you're shooting all these enemies with. I loved the exploring. I loved finding secrets. And there's something about this style of game from like this era and before, these first-person shooters, where it almost felt like even learning how to play the game was kind of a secret discovery.
Yeah.
Like, how do I know I've got to interact with this like JPEG of like what is a button, but what do I do to do that? And sure, I think it's usually just like B to do it, which is the same as the jump button, but I had a ball and I want to return to this, but I gotta find a way to like keep playing it because I'm playing this on the N64 and the summer cart, and I actually do need a memory card to play it.
I kind of found out during this research that I actually never owned a memory card the whole time that this console was around, and never needed to. And none of the games I wanted to play needed like memory card data, and sometimes they would, and I would just kind of go and not rent it again. But there was, I would say, almost all the games on the list today were memory card games.
The amount of times that a game, Jeremy, for this episode was like, "Are you sure you want to continue without saving?"
Yeah,
it did feel like every one.
On the Analog 3D, by the way. Internal memory card. It just sees that there's a memory card there and just saves it to the system.
That's
it's
awesome.
Incredible.
I bet there's a way for me to like to create like a save state on the micro SD of the summer card. I just haven't looked into it.
I would also say like Amazon just has them $10 and they're just like then they have like way more space than like original memory card. Yeah.
Jeremy, did you have other games in this style that you wanted to highlight while we were here?
Just like while we're here, before, like, and then just we can move on.
Great.
Because I don't think we're gonna want to talk in depth about each one of these. But like, off of Doom and Hexen, I referenced it in my intro, but like Duke Nukem 64 was also available. That one, I'm glad we're not talking about that one too much because that one is just a straight port of the PC game. Like I don't think it's like an original game for the console.
I looked up a little bit just to see if there were differences. They toned down the dirtbagness of Duke Nukem as much as they can without it still not being Duke Nukem. Like, there are porn shops you can go to in the PC version. They just are gun shops here, which is like funny. There are strippers. They're just clothed in this. They even changed the steroids you get as like a health or a boost thing. They just become vitamins.
Yeah, I think they literally changed the porn theater to an arcade.
Yeah,
it becomes like an arcade or something.
I think Duke Burger was like an invented idea by Duke Nukem 64 because they didn't just want to have dirty, seedy porn shops and stuff in strip clubs.
All that being said, though, great port. Like you could fully play this game.
And I mean, and it's fine. 64, I'm sure is solid.
There, on the topic of Duke Nukem, just really quick shout out to Duke Nukem 0 Hour. I don't know if anyone played this or tried this at all. Okay, guys, this is an actual N64 exclusive game. It's like there's so few Duke Nukem things that exist, but it's a third-person Duke Nukem adventure, and it's totally stinks. But like, man, you should try it just to see what that was. He goes back and forth through time, and he fights like lizard people, and it's a whole thing.
One thing I noted, I just want to shout out. I wrote this down and noted. I saw a video of it. There's like body-based damage to it, where like you can shoot off a limb or shoot a hole in the middle of a lizard person.
Whoa.
Yeah. So like pretty graphic. Pretty
graphic. Pretty dirtbag. Yeah. They make you swim in it and stuff. It's like, oh no, thank you, no, thank you.
Dude doesn't swim.
He can't swim.
Except in women.
Quake 1 and 2 did see N64 ports. They are pretty good. They are not as zippy fast as they are on the PC, but they are like playable Quake games. And then let me just make sure I get all of them. Almost. Oh, and then only because I don't know how long we'd want to talk about this. Probably not long. But off of Doom, you get Daikatana, which is a pretty crazy N64 port. I think the N64 and the PC were the only places that this was originally released, and I would be so curious to play this on the PC actually, because on the N64 it's just too much for that console, I think. And in progressive mode, I think it plays it in like a smaller window, so it's like it's like a really small looking game, and I think like the UI, like the HUD elements, are like really big in it, so you feel like you're playing in like a very tiny window.
Is that John Carmack?
Is it or Romero? It's Romero.
Romero. I had a 50% chance to get the right John, and I guess wrong.
Yeah.
The famous ad was John Romero is about to make you his bitch, and it was about Katana, and it didn't live up to that potential. So
it's got a weird vibe to it. It's definitely trying to do things in a more elevated way than Doom is, but it is like, I think, just fraught with some probably just design problems.
A lot of technical problems. I remember even like early on, I think as bad as it was for Nintendo 64, I think you had to have a really good PC to play it on PC at the time. Nowadays, probably not so much, and it still probably has like glitches or whatever, but like, I just remember it being an infamous rollout for sure.
Yeah, and I think those are it.
These are so good. Just what a fascinating. This genre in general on the console is wonderful. I want to highlight a whole genre of games right now because it felt like for one of the evenings I was going through this summer cart and starting up games that I had never heard of. It was like 5 games in a row were fighting games that I had never heard of. And there's a whole slew of these MFs here. Jeremy, I think you even had referenced one of them in our group chat. But I've got like 5 here that really stood out to me. I think I could just name them all, but maybe you guys want to talk about. How about I name 5 of them, and you guys can either add on or we can dive into one. How about that?
Yeah, I'm curious to know if some of these I might not have never played.
Yes, I at least dipped into all of them and started them, and was not really interested in any. Part of that is probably because I'm not the biggest fighting game person, but we had Biofreaks.
Oh yeah.
We had Dark Rift.
Yes.
Deadly Arts, a.k.a. Gasp.
Ooh.
It's a weird one. We have Dual Hero, and Deadly Arts is kind of like a Virtua Fighter-esque game, and even in like its style, it's like it looks like just people who are doing martial arts.
GASP is an acronym for Generation of Art, Speed, and Power.
How about that?
Ooh.
Dual Heroes, anyone?
Never heard of it or played it.
This looks like, and there's YouTube videos for all of these things. I can even drop them in the chat if you want. But this is like a Power Rangers looking fighter.
Hudson.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah.
The last one I want to shout out is a game called War Gods, which I also dipped into. Do you know this one?
I know War Gods, yeah.
I think of the bunch, I think War Gods stood out as the most novel of these. Like, they are all kind of they're trying to eat Mortal Kombat's lunch and getting beat up instead. But War Gods at least looked like the most novel one. I remember I believe it even had an arcade port, so I think maybe it was more legit.
Yeah.
I don't know.
It's Midway, too, so it's...
all right, fair enough.
Some of these have arcade ports, but as I played all of them, I would have assumed they did, but not everyone does. Yeah, War Gods might even be the worst looking of all of them, but it is, even from like the character select screen, just looks like a Mortal Kombat clone.
Yes, right. The design of the select screen is very Mortal Kombat.
I think.
Yeah, I don't think BioFreaks had an arcade.
I think that's
BioFreaks is maybe. I don't know. That game stunk. I was like really trying with BioFreaks because it had like that image of that cover again had like a grip on me. I never played it, and then I tried to play it for this, and it's just slow, man.
You know what it kind of looks like to me? Because obviously it's a sort of Tekken or Virtua Fighter like in the sense that you can move around in a 3D space, but it reminds me of video I've seen of Dissidia Final Fantasy.
Oh yeah, I thought you were gonna say Power Stone because it's also very Power Stone.
There's some Power
kind
Stone.
of arena, like
it's like a little diorama arena that you're kind of flying around in, and
and the just the pace that the characters can move around this thing is not reminiscent of a lot of the fighters, of fighting games in general. To me, I feel like even with characters that are more agile, in so many of them. Like I was kind of mentioning Tekkens and Virtua Fighters and whatnot, you are a little more like chained together and planted in the ground. But this, BioFreaks was so interesting, and I really had no desire to keep playing it.
No, from what I can tell, like this era of everything's trying to be in that Mortal Kombat, it's like it's more edge than it is actual like technical prowess, and it's a reason why they're almost all one-offs. Yeah.
This one thing I did find interesting about BioFreaks though was the I guess reliance or the emphasis on the weapons used in these from like and like I mean you definitely see projectiles in fighting games, but I just feel like I don't often see just guns used, and that could be, again, because I'm a novice, but
feels cheating.
No, you're right. You're right.
No,
that's a very uncommon thing to have in a fighting game, a gun.
Did you guys have other fighting games, whether it was on my little list or other ones you wanted to highlight that felt like Dirtbag games? Because I felt like every one of these in some way, I'm like, what my perspective was that, okay, fighting games were such a big genre, especially during this era, that some dirtbag would be like, yeah, I'll try out that new fighting game. It's like Mortal Kombat. It's got blood, right?
Hell yeah. Well, I mean, they did make Mortal Kombat 4 for the N64, and it's actually, and that, along with Dark Rift, another game that you mentioned, are one of the like only 5 games that were ever released that are locked on at 60 FPS, which makes them sort of age just a little better. They're like a little more crispy to go back. So F-Zero X being one, Smash Brothers being one, and then just a few others, but yeah, Mortal Kombat 4, that's such an interesting game because it like clearly deviates. It tries to become Tekken kinda, and it's not celebrated very well. I don't think people like Mortal Kombat 4 very much these days.
And I don't think any of the recent Mortal Kombat games try to like recreate it. They're trying to do like a more modern 2D fighter system.
Yeah, but War Gods is one that I could maybe fuck with a little bit. And then you have games like Killer Instinct Gold and Clay Fighter 63 1/3, which they're both rated T for teen, but they're pretty dirtbag.
Especially some of the stuff I saw in Clay Fighter.
Yeah,
when we did our tournament.
We got to play that at a little fight night, and like I think we all felt a little unclean after playing it. So
Jacques Molyneux especially being the winner of that tournament.
Well,
what does that say about you?
Well, that's just he agrees with everything that game has to say. So.
Oh man.
But yeah, like I said, I had a whole fighting game category. It's the only real category I had because outside of the shooters, because it was like every other game I tried was a fighting game.
They really tried, and like a lot of these, they must have just had no marketing budgets at all.
I know, because the system seems like it works for it. There are 4 controller ports to PlayStation's default 2. Like, there's plenty of ways this could have worked out for them, and I think they just didn't figure it out in time.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I have a handful of more that I'd like to even just quickly highlight or rapid fire by the end, but I do want to open it back up to you guys since I just kind of went with one. Jeremy, what's another game or style of game you want to highlight here?
I mean, I know we're saving one big one for here, probably just a second. Yeah. But I guess if I'm going to do like kind of one more round of not that game.
Sure.
I'm trying to... A couple different ways we could go. There's well, I don't know. You said you played Nightmare Creatures, right, Connor?
Yes, I did.
Let's talk about that for a second, because I actually found that to be a really interesting game that I probably would go back to.
Yeah.
I don't know how you felt about it, but
it's funny. I felt like when I was playing it, I could recognize what I might even call like the competency of the design of that game, but I wasn't really drawn to it despite its really interesting setting and tone.
That's what I was taken with. I think was the setting and tone, in that it really did to me remind me of Bloodborne, and it felt like Bloodborne-esque, of like werewolves and beasts and the night, and you're running around like the certain like time period of like the late 1800s or whatever, London town with Jack the Ripper. And you're like, it just felt and it felt surprisingly a lot more frictionless to play than a lot of these games did. Like comparing this game to something like a Shadow Man 64, which I also think is pretty good. Yeah. I would probably sooner go back to Nightmare Creatures than Shadow Man 64, because there was also like Nightmare Creatures also was like level based, which I kind of liked too, where you had these like start-stop points as opposed to a Shadow Man that just seems to kind of go on for. I think that's how the Shadow Man works, is like you just keep progressing.
There's a weird open world element to like Shadow Man.
Yeah.
That's another one that got an HD remake remaster that you can play.
It's also on the NSO, which makes it sort of interesting too. It's in that weird NC-17 like explicit NSO. I didn't
realize it came there.
Yeah, it's like Shadow Man. I think it's Turok, the couple Turok games, and Perfect Dark are currently or maybe Forsaken is in there too.
Was it? It could be. I remember that was a possibility at least.
Forsaken being in that category is very funny to me, because it just feels like a sort of faceless space shooter.
Yeah, it's very distinct.
Even though you choose a character, it's very interesting. But Nightmare Creatures and Shadow Man struck me as such interesting action-adventure games.
Yeah.
This one more, it's a series I wouldn't assume that you guys are going to be bringing up today, is Castlevania. This just felt like a alternate Castlevania game that was way more violent and realistic. Well, realistic.
Or more beat 'em uppy.
And way more realistic.
Realistic.
I mean, it's interesting you bring up Castlevania. I actually, for whatever reason, didn't revisit those for this, and I maybe just because they're so universal. Yeah, I actually like Legacy of Darkness. I think Legacy of Darkness is
they're
pretty
so
good.
weird in a sense that they are kind of doing the 2D Castlevania thing for 3D, but you realize how quickly that's not a good idea. Like it's like, no, this shouldn't be in 3D. This is too tough. This is too weird. This is too arcane.
Yes.
You need to do like the heightened version they eventually got to, or you need to be Devil May Cry or something.
They're also T for teen games, to be fair.
Yeah.
So.
All right.
I had to look that up though.
It makes sense.
But yeah, I guess my last two are gonna be Shadow Man and Nightmare Creatures. Just like games I miss. I definitely missed these growing up. I did not play either of these, but they are kind of cool third-person action games.
Yeah.
Which, that's the genre that I really do feel like dominates our modern era. It's like that's the it's like those are the games everyone wants to be playing. It's like, first-person shooters are even declining in their popularity as time goes on. I think this is, the third-person action game. It's so different than the third-person platformer. What you're doing in it,
These do kind of feel both of them in some certain ways like almost ahead of their time.
Yeah.
Because of that, the Shadow Man was so perplexing today. I didn't realize. I want to say too, I need to shout out an advocate for this game who's been talking to me about it for almost a full year, and that's Arik Cohen.
No way! Arik is a closeted Shadow Man fan.
He's not even closeted. He's so open about it.
He should be closeted.
Yeah.
He and Nadia came on for an earlier N64 Diaries episode for me. He shouted it out there. He shouted it out on his original episode of Call Me By Your Game, and told me today when I texted him telling him I was playing Shadow Man that he has a guide for it, like an original,
like one of those strategy guides.
Yes.
Ooh,
that game is so strange. It's so there's such a focus on story and
Yeah.
the voice acting. I couldn't believe that they had that clear of voice acting in an N64 game.
we got one of those coming up.
Yeah, but man, the Shadow Man voice acting and Shadow Man performances and just the setting of Shadow Man. I mean, as soon as the game launches and you realize who's the protagonist and what his deal is, immediately I'm just kind of like, uh-oh.
Yes.
Like, I'm just like, what are we doing? Like, this is crazy. Because it's all taking place, like, down in the bayou, kind
It's
of.
not very sensitive.
Right. Yeah. It's like a dark world version of Princess and the Frog or something, where it's just like, it's very macabre and very of its time rough, you know. But it's also having a lot of fun too, and you know, I don't know. It's like I think I mean, in both cases I might revisit either one of these games at some point because
I was curious about both of these for sure.
Yeah.
I love that, Jeremy. Maybe I can rapid fire a few in a second, but Hearn, before we get to maybe the final one that you guys could be aligned on, and I think by process of elimination, I think I know what it is. Hearn, did you have a couple you wanted to quickly shout out?
I do. I'm just going to shout out the T for teens that don't specifically adhere to the dirtbag rhetoric, but I think what they're doing is so weird and dirtbaggy that they're getting away with it, even though they're like T. And they're also like really interesting novelties. The first one is Body Harvest, which is by Take-Two, which was before Grand Theft Auto 3 and probably before a couple of the Grand Theft Autos, honestly. But it's such a weird, it's doing like a EDF almost, like you're running around an open map, shooting at giant bugs, and getting into vehicles and driving them around and doing missions. It's so like weirdly, like, I don't know, it's ahead of its time in some ways, but also it's still very arcane and messy and not effective. But it's just like a wild it's like half Blast Corps and half EDF for a Nintendo 64 system. It's so weird. I dig it. There's Winback, which is basically the Nintendo 64 attempt at trying to do like a Metal Gear Solid. It's very obviously designed and looking like it. It's by Koei, and it's like a tough third-person shooter type of game with level-based progression. There's some like random puzzle levels where like you have to dodge lasers and stuff. That's an especially tough one. There's mines. There's like, it's trying to do the Metal Gear Solid thing, but it's still so much more arcadey than Metal Gear Solid, and probably a lot looser in the story. I do not recall the story at all. And this one was a surprise to me, and I did not expect it to be dirtbag adjacent, but I want you guys to look up a game called Knife Edge Nose Gunner. Did this come up in any?
I think I actually played a little bit of this, but let me look at the
cover. It just looks like generic, like fighter pilot shooter game, like Urban Strike or something. It is not that. It is set on Mars. It is a 3D rail shooter, like a Star Fox 64 Sin and Punishment, even. But it is like high tech. You're shooting up aliens. It has a big story to it, apparently. Like, it's very Starship Troopers adjacent ish.
Yeah.
Like there's multiplayer to it, there's co-op, there's like elements to it, and just like, even though like it's on rails, so you're not, it's like Star Fox where you can't control a vehicle, you're just shooting at things that are coming. But it's something that there's like some dynamics to it. What I like about it too, that makes it like very dirtbaggy, is, and Kelsey brings this up every time I play a game like Zelda or something, where it's like, I'm fighting an animal or something in their natural habitat. It's just like, what are you doing? You're supposed to be the hero, but you're going to the forest and killing a bunny. Like, you're the alien that's invading their space and being bad. That's the plot of Night Edge, is that a bunch of humans took over Mars, like, are trying to terraform it, and a bunch of aliens are attacking you. It's like, of course they are. You're on their home planet, and you're like, screw off. We're the American military. We're going to kill you. So I didn't expect this at all from this game, because you look at the cover, it just seems like a chopper game, but it's not that. It's weird as hell. So I just want to shout that out for being very surprising.
I'm gonna play this.
It's not like amazing. Like, it's definitely worse than Star Fox, but it's like, it's got weird dynamic and elements to it. Like, it's very worth a real lost on Nintendo 64 novelty for sure.
I definitely played some of this week, Hearn.
Nice.
It is kind of, I would say, because I was trying to find a point of comparison as well, I would say this is somewhere between N64 rail shooters, like you said, but also more of like an arcade sort of. What would you call those type of shooters like that you play? Whether it's Dino Crisis or, like where you have to like reload or hide.
Yeah, Time Crisis, stuff
like
like
a cover
that.
shooter.
Yeah, cover shooter. Thank you, Jeremy.
Yeah.
This is like reminiscent of that, except you're doing literally zero actual control of where you're located. It's just shoot the stuff on screen, but the screen's moving all the time.
Yeah.
That's such a great pick, Hearn.
I do.
Honestly, some of these when I was playing with the summer car are just lost in a haze. So I finally created a note and started writing this down. I want to point out just two that fall into a category of what I would call dirtbag games for like under the sports category. You guys know that sports, huge genre of video games. I can like a sports game here and there. I like a few sports games on the N64 quite a bit. I want to point out two dirtbag N64 sports games. One of which certainly doesn't have anything worse than a T. It's probably an E for everyone game actually. And that's Mike Piazza's Strikeout, I think it is. Let me double check. I just had a video up and I accidentally went back out of it. Let's see. Sorry, guys.
Are you just saying it's dirtbag because he's Italian?
Well, yes, it actually has. Yeah, that's all it has to do. Not because Mike Piazza himself is like a right-wing grifter or anything.
Yeah.
Mike Piazza
is he really? I actually know nothing
I
about
don't know.
modern-day Mike Piazza.
I found it.
It's not great.
Mike
He was my
Piazza's
hero as a
Strike
kid, though.
Zone.
Dude, people love, and he's like one of the greatest catchers ever, and maybe the greatest hitting catcher ever. But this guy, his game, I played a little bit of it because I can get down with an N64 baseball game. It's not very good, and it just seems like something that like, this is a little derogatory, but a more casual gamer who doesn't have taste like we do back in the day would have been like, oh yeah, I only like sports and shooters sort of thing. The people who I'm like, oh yeah, you're a gamer when I talk to them nowadays, but I'm like, branch out a little bit.
Yeah.
So Mike Piazza Strike Zone, and then ECW Revolution. Do you guys know what this is?
I looked this up too. This is the only M-rated, I think it's even the first M-rated wrestling game. But I was like, do the WCW games count? Do they count? And they're T for teen, but this was M.
Yes, this is based on the ECW organization of wrestling, and it is not only is it just it belongs because it's rated M. You just play this game for like everything in it is like it's even the presentation is disgusting and poor.
Yeah.
Like,
wow, I'm looking up some on Wikipedia. It has its old like gamer ratings from different outlets, and it is bad.
Like not only is it a dirtbag game, it's a bad dirtbag game. Like it felt
3
like
out of 10s, 5 out of 10s.
And this game wasn't long for content. There are like 30 or more wrestlers from the ECW back in the day, none of which I know. But they're named like there's one whose name is just Balls. And I was like, this is a dirtbag game if I've ever seen one. So that's it
Nice.
for my little rapid fire one. And I think it's time for us, maybe on the count of 3, we should all say the game that I think we're all thinking of.
All right,
I'll give us a countdown. I'll say 3, 2, 1, and then we'll say it after that. So here we go. 3, 2, 1.
Hybrid Heaven, baby. South Park 64.
Yeah, I just broke it. It was like Beetle Adventure Racing. No.
Chef's Love Shack.
No, Hybrid Heaven, I have such a heart for this game. You know it, Jeremy.
I'm brand new to it, so I'd love to hear from you guys if you played it before.
Hearn, why don't you kick us off here with Hybrid Heaven? Because I do feel like I am a I'm not a fake fan, but I'm more like I'm riding your coattails.
No,
into the
and I don't
fandom.
mind.
Hybrid Purgatory.
I feel like there's very few people who could have been on the ground for this game, and I barely was, I'm sure, but I still was, because this was like just random Konami game. When I was dating the developers, that I knew it was Konami. I was curious about it. It kind of seemed very Metal Gear Solid-y. It's very sci-fi, of course. yeah, I rented it and I had no idea what it was, and I had no idea what its battle system would turn out to be. I had no idea what the content of its story would be. It's just so wild a swing in every direction, and I'm not going to lie to you and say it succeeds at all those swings. I'm not going to be like, this is a great game or something, but it's so unique. You'll never play another game like it.
Yeah.
And it's doing stuff that, in retrospect, I'm like, Konami went on to try this elsewhere. They like do the Raiden thing early on in this game, where it's like you're playing as a character, turns out you're playing as an actual different character. And you don't even understand why. And it's like, it's just so weird and fun about that. But yeah, Hybrid Heaven is by Konami. It was trying to be like, it is, I think they were trying to do like a Metal Gear Solid for Nintendo 64 element, but like they weren't trying to just do third person shooter.
Right.
They were trying to do like kind of that like third person action adventure, story driven elements. Like you're running in environments, you're climbing, you're doing sort of Tomb Raider-y like climbing, maneuvering and stuff. Kind of feels slow. There's some general third person shooter elements that are kind of clunky, but it's like a little different. And then, but when you get into battles is when this game comes alive and does something that you'll never see anywhere else. It is a 3D arena fighter, move in three directions, that is a turn-based wrestling battle system with body specific damage. Yep. Where if you do enough damage to a specific body part on your enemy, that not only does it make it a weak spot, they might not be able to do attacks with that specific limb anymore and might hinder them in other ways. Like they're so weirdly thought out, and so like you upgrade your abilities, you get more abilities, more specific moves. And yeah, like it is just like, I don't know how they invented this concept, if it had an origin elsewhere, what they want to do with it. But it's all in this game, this very weird sci-fi tinged game. So it's not just you wrestling another guy. It's you wrestling like a big lizard man or like an alien. It blew me away. And the thing that me and Jeremy were talking about leading up to this was there is a story to it that I don't think they half-ass, but I do not understand it. And especially since you barely scratch the surface, even in the first few hours of it. And I'm sure you have to get through the whole game to even get maybe what they were getting at. But there's a momentum to the story in the levels. Like all the level based stuff, it's not just arbitrary feeling. Like there's chase scenes you're running away from a big monster at one point. Like that just feels like something about the story is moving you forward and making you want to keep playing more, regardless of like whatever struggles you might be having with the game. But everything, like, it's hard to describe. I recommend just looking at YouTube, like, and seeing what is the vibe of this game, because it's very hard to pin down. It's like we talked about Uncanny of Doom 64. This is Uncanny Valley of everything that was going on in 3D gaming at the moment.
Yeah, it's like they threw the entire kitchen sink at this one, where it's just like systems the game. It's just like so many compiling systems, like voice acting. Like it's not completely voice acted, but all the cutscenes are voice acted. Like Hearn said, there's this like kind of bait and switch like main character thing where that happens in the beginning, where like you're playing as one person for a while, right, and then you switch to another character. And that's when the game sort of reveals its structure to you a little bit, which is not unlike Metal Gear, where it's like, hey, there's a rogues gallery of bad guys you're gonna have to take down, and they're all. It's also taking a lot of inspiration from Blade Runner, where they're all like, they're either. Hearn, are they like cyborg? Are they like half machine people?
Yeah,
or
something
is it
about
like
it's all aliens essentially.
Alien
like,
stuff.
It's an alien race, but it's also like, but they're like up to so much no good that it's like we're also doing clone stuff, we're doing robot stuff. You can't pin us down. It's like, geez, and it's all like in a like government conspiracy cover up stuff going on too. Like you fight on the White House lawn at one point. Like it's so wild for like this game from like the late 90s, 99. And I imagine a lot of its M rating is that there is like some degree of violence in it, there's some degree of blood, but I also think it's just so adult. I think you can't advertise this to a teen.
It has that system,
unless you're a freak like me and a teen at that time.
It has that system where like the more you use an arm or a leg, like the more that'll level up. So you kind of want to you kind of want to diversify your plans of attack. Like I found in the first couple hours I was playing it recently, like I just kept kicking everyone because that was where my stronger attacks were. But then there were opportunities where I couldn't kick, or kicking didn't apply to an enemy. So you kind of want to make sure you're leveling those things up too. And then, yeah, you'll just like randomly get like upgrades that are like, now you can do instead of like a jab, you can do an uppercut. It's like somehow like through fighting, you like kind of learned a new move just by being out there
It's
fighting
almost like
people.
the Matrix adjacent in that way too, of like downloading an ability.
Yeah,
Kind of. Even
that's
though this
interesting.
is the same year as that movie.
Yeah, it has extremely fraught platforming sections where you're trying to like do bad 3D platforming to get collectibles and just get unlocked doors and stuff. And I actually found this game when I first played it when it came out impenetrable. I just could not figure out what I'm supposed to be doing, where I'm supposed to be going. It also has that like corridor problem of like a lot of the corridors early on are designed identically so that you get lost really quick. But when I was playing it recently, I found this game way more penetrable than it was before. Like my adult brain clicked into it with so much more ease and actually had a good time with it and found it to be like, okay, I might actually have to sit down and really like maybe beat this game because it is nothing if not extremely interesting.
Yes. No, 100%.
Total fascination. Like it is. Like, I don't know if it's more than the sum of all of its parts, but its systems are so much more intricate than sort of meets the eye and interesting. And
yeah, it's like because I've not played all of the wrestling games of this era, but even like what little I played of like wrestling games in this house, where they don't quite have the same system of movement, of stamina building, of obviously hurting or growing body parts. Like, it's such a like forward thinking but like arcane system. It's like it's really well designed, but to what end is the question really about a lot of this game.
Yeah. They really went for it here, and like it obviously didn't pay off anywhere close to Metal Gear Solid levels, but like
or ratings wise or
ratings,
popularity wise, yeah.
But there is like a colorful cast of characters that is really fun to meet, and then it also just has this like really interesting conspiracy style thriller story that's happening in the background, like Hearn was talking about. And I feel like this game did not get maybe the love and appreciation that it deserved. I mean, look at that cover. It's like I should have known, like, oh yeah, all these, you're gonna have to fight all those guys. Like that's what the cover is. It's like, here's the guys you're gonna fight.
so much intrigue even just from that. I really had no idea, even though I've heard the title of this game probably from YouTube.
Yeah, probably from just us
over
being
the
creeps.
last 8 or 9 years, but I really didn't know what I was getting into. And like so outside of the M rating, like I don't know if like there are it's too many elements that it almost feels like Dirtbag averse. Like I don't know if a lot of dirtbags would be like, I want to try this out.
They would have probably got stuck really easy. But in the opening cutscene, there is like sexy stuff going on. I think there is like a shower scene.
You see
and,
like almost see a butt.
You almost see a bottom.
You know, maybe this is for the true dirtbags who really can see something through.
Connor, did you play any amount of this?
I played maybe 20 minutes this afternoon.
Great. So you at least got to control him and a little bit of that. Yeah. You saw the cutscene in the subway, which is pretty cool.
Which I'm like, suddenly the guy I thought I was going to be controlling disintegrates. Yes. And I was playing as, I think it's Mr. Diaz. And we can never let July know about this game. But I was playing as him in the first sort of, like building that you are exploring and going through. And I think it was actually right before the recording. But what a total fascination. Great Dirtbag game. Great collection of Dirtbag games that you guys have brought. Before we wrap up, I don't really have any other games to shout out. But did you guys have any other honorable mentions before we go? Feels like we kind of did it.
South Park 64. Is like that actually. I guess I only bring that up because it was a really popular game too.
Yeah,
like it wasn't just that it was M-rated and on the N64. It like sold really well, and a lot of people liked it.
I didn't play like the South Park games at the time, and I feel like the main thing about those is like they're kind of more for like the kids who can get away with getting the M-rated game rather than like the actual.
I could never rent this game, but when I would go over to friends' houses, like the multiplayer was like a funny GoldenEye.
Yeah.
Like and then we talked a little bit about Forsaken, but that game has always just really like boggled my mind. Have you guys played
like
Forsaken?
2 levels of it today.
Yeah, it's actually really fun, but the cover art is just like, why did they do that?
No, it's one of those like trying to be for dirtbags, like really approaching it with that element, and then it's like, but it's more like Descent-ish, like it's that like 3D, like it seems pretty stabilized. I think I have a remastered version of it as well.
Yeah,
so
it's really fun. You're playing. You're basically like you can't see your character avatar. You just have a reticle on your screen, and you're just flying around like sort of like in a spaceship or something. But the cover is just this woman with this tattoo on her face, and she's crying, and you're like, what is? And
the background is
I played
a big
the game.
desert.
I still don't know who she is or why is she crying. Like it just feels like a edgy, edgy for edgy's sake but like I think that had to have hurt, because I would have rented this game if I would have known it was fly around
like
shoot
just
things.
a spaceship.
Yeah, I felt like proficient at it in some ways. It was awesome. I don't have any honorable mentions, but I did want to say that like one of the most fun things about this exercise for me was being reminded about how, like Jeremy said, you need a memory card for seemingly every game we discussed. How Acclaim made so many titles. I love seeing opening titles in this era, especially on these style of games. And most importantly, how indecipherable so many games feel when you first boot them up. Without the instruction manual and knowing even what to do, basically every game I played, I would start by just pressing buttons to see what I would do. And even in learning like how to shoot and move in Forsaken was one thing. I think like A and B are like forward and backward. Playing Hybrid Heaven, holding down R to hold your gun and then pressing Z to shoot.
And it shoots nothing but a little bubble.
Yeah, it's very spongy, like the shooting combat in this. And you're shooting like just a couple things. It's very weird.
Yeah. But just, trying to understand a control scheme of a game and what those things do was funny. But thank you guys so much for, Jeremy, thank you for the idea of doing this Dirtbag conversation. Hearn, thank you for your enthusiasm and hanging out too and finally penning an entry in the N64 diary, buddy. It's a short list of people, but it's an esteemed group. On our way out, before we go, I wanted to let everybody know we've got 2 more episodes of the N64 Diaries to come before we close things out. We've got an episode coming in September, coming in October. Next month, we're going to be talking about 3D platformers on the N64. And then we're going to be doing a top 9 N64 games in October as well. So we're going to basically end with 10 episodes in the diary. Hearn, on your way out, buddy. Yes. What do you want to plug?
All right, my website, michaelchearn.com. My short films are on there. And I would also I'm just going to plug Hybrid Heaven some more. Just do it, guys. Someone out there at Konami needs to, like all these remasters we're talking about, we need a Hybrid Heaven remastered, baby.
I'd love more people to play this. Jer, what do you want to plug, buddy?
Yeah, just Video Games and Comedy Shows, a podcast I do. You can find it anywhere podcasts can be found.
And then as for the rest of the plugs and everything they just said, if you look in the show notes, you can find a link to all these beautiful things, including the cover art by Glenn J., our artist. You can also just shout out to somebody who I guess, he's on the episode, but this podcast is produced, edited, and the original music that you hear throughout is done by Jeremy Schmidt. You can follow the podcast on Instagram, Blue Sky, and YouTube. There's a whole YouTube version of this episode. If you just listen in the audio format, go give us a follow on YouTube, and you can see 3 handsome gentlemen on this particular episode. You can check me out on Blue Sky and on Twitch if you'd like. And lastly, again, if you're looking to support the show and you want to do that, you can do that by sharing the podcast, leaving a 5-star rating and review wherever you listen, and checking us out on Patreon, where, the more you support us, the higher the tier, the more bonus podcasts you get for that. So tune in there. There's probably some N64 stuff behind the paywall still that you could find. But that's going to do it for another episode of the N64 Diaries. We will see you on the next one.